Despite all the obstacles Angelina Jolie has overcome, there was one that made an indelible impression on her. She entered the film industry with hopes and goals at the tender age of 21, only to cross up with Harvey Weinstein, one of the most notorious and divisive figures in Hollywood. She vowed she would never collaborate with him again after what transpired between them. Notoriety, wealth, or even professional dangers weren't at stake. It has to do with honoring oneself. After the world learned the truth about Weinstein, which horrified everyone years later, Jolie's decision became crystal clear. However, the true cause? There the plot starts. Angelina Jolie shifts gears in her discussion of a particular American experience that caused her to think about her children and their rights when the battle for children's rights hits close to home. Her speech is rapid and assured at first, but as she reflects on her history, her confidence wanes and her words stumble. One day, she had an epiphany regarding children's rights, an issue she had long advocated for on a global scale. She recalled reading the official statement on children's rights, then opened and reread it, and came to the realization that children need robust protections when times get bad. She was determined to provide her children with that kind of assistance. But then she learned something that really took her by surprise. The fact that America had not ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Child was something she learned about. She was deeply affected by this news. She made the argument that a child's voice may be more heard in a European court than in a Californian one. Because of this, she gave serious consideration to the nation in which she was living and the ways in which it failed to safeguard its most innocent citizens. Being in the company of other young people who are defiant and committed to making a difference brings back a flood of memories of her own rebellious and justice-seeking childhood. On the other hand, she hesitates and admits that she is unable to reveal the reason behind her worry for her children's rights because of her current legal troubles. Someone wanted to know if the accusations she leveled against Brad Pitt and her divorce were relevant to her current predicament. She has been instructed not to speak publicly, but she does not in response to direct questions. She swiftly answers yes, expressing worry for her entire family, not just her children, when asked if she was worried about their safety. It's a harsh truth for someone who has spent a great deal of time advocating for the protection of children in locations devastated by war and other forms of human suffering. Realizing that your own children may be in danger after years of protesting violations of children's rights is difficult. She gets that it's easy to lose sight of the difficulties you're facing right now if you're preoccupied with world issues. It's as if everything else is negligible until it becomes significant. She pauses often to collect her thoughts. Big decisions are difficult for her, she says. She had been thinking about leaving her children's father for some time. She finally decided that was the right course of action after much deliberation. For a long time, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie were considered the pinnacle of Hollywood glitz and power. The Brangelina were an untouchable royal family. They were both extremely famous, having won Oscars and been among the most paid performers in Hollywood. They embodied the modern famous couple in all their glamour, expertise, and charitable work. They became close at more than just red carpet events and movie premieres. They made use of their fame to advocate for causes they believed in. Hollywood A-lister Angelina Jolie's humanitarian work with the United Nations Refugee Agency often included Brad Pitt, aiding regions hit by conflict and catastrophic events. Additionally, they collaborated to build educational institutions in areas hit hard by war and economic hardship. 3 of their 6 children came from troubled nations through adoption: Cambodian Maddox, Vietnamese Pax, and Ethiopian Zahara. It looked like they had a strategy for handling the media's attention. They were prepared for the rush of photographers after the 2006 birth of their biological daughter Shiloh. They thus resolved to assume leadership. For a fair price, they let prominent magazines have the exclusive rights to her early photographs. Instead of hoarding the wealth for themselves, the Pitts gave it all to the Jolie Pitt Foundation. They repeated the process in 2008 with the arrival of their twin girls, Knox and Vivian, generating an even bigger amount and setting a new record for celebrity picture ops. Beautiful, prosperous, and socially conscious, they appeared nearly too ideal on the outside. Despite the glitz and celebrity, though, issues were beginning to surface. Ong Lee and Brad Pitt's alleged inability to reconcile led to Angelina Jolie's September 2016 divorce petition. Despite the divorce being finalized in 2019, the custody battle continues, plagued by false accusations and unresolved matters. It is believed that an event that occurred on their private plane in 2016 is a major cause of their issues. Actor Brad Pitt allegedly became violent with Maddox, who was 15 years old at the time, due to his intoxication, according to news sources. Angelina Jolie claimed she acted in the best interests of her family when she filed for a divorce only 5 days following the event. No legal action would be taken once the FBI looked at the incident. Although he has consistently denied physically harming his children, Pitt has admitted to having an alcohol problem and admitted to yelling at one of them. For both legal and personal concerns, Jolie will not discuss what happened that day. Her quiet betrays her feelings. It is evident that her primary concern is the safety of her children and the protection of their rights and voices. This remarkable woman has witnessed the devastation of war, spoken with international leaders, and visited refugee camps. Now, she is fighting a personal battle at home that mirrors the hardships she fights for others. Justice, safety, and rights are matters of the heart, regardless of one's wealth, status, or influence. An increasingly important aspect of Angelina Jolie's life is her dedication to fighting for children's rights. There is an increasing sense of urgency and strength in her dedication to her cause. A dedicated mother who will oppose an ex-lover if it means keeping her family safe. She is well known for her acting career, charity work, and renowned romances. And that includes sticking together through the years when words fail. The Hollywood Hills are close by Angelina Jolie's present home in Los Feliz, a serene and beautiful neighborhood. The illustrious Cecil B. DeMille once lived in the enormous estate where she now resides. Jolie bought the mansion for her children's convenience in seeing Brad Pitt, despite the exorbitant price tag. After the breakup, Pitt has been granted visiting rights, but she has mainly held custody of the children during the previous 5 years. A lot of people assume that Angelina Jolie wanted sole custody throughout the protracted legal fights between Brad Pitt and her. But in reality, they were trying to work out a good shared custody arrangement for their kids. You can hear Jolie's children playing and her pet dog, Dusty, interjecting with playful noises while she chats. Hollywood star Angelina Jolie knows firsthand the devastating impact that any form of abuse can have on a child's development and well-being. She thinks kids should have the right to be protected from harmful environments. She uses a general term to describe children, yet her voice has an intimate quality to it. People all throughout the globe have different views on the custody struggle. Although she has faced criticism from some attorneys, she stands by her choice to allow her children to testify against their father. According to her legal team, 3 of her children have already indicated their willingness to testify. It was Jolie's mother, Mark-Helen Bertrand, who instilled in her a sense of human rights, according to Jolie. Jolie inherited her mother's unfailing compassion and her refusal to stand for the abuse of others. Mark-Helen lived a full and fascinating life. She had an early interest in acting, spent time with notable figures like Jim Morrison, and went on to date Native American poet and activist John Trudell. At the age of 56, she succumbed to ovarian cancer in 2007. Jon Voight, Jolie's father, was an accomplished actor who received an Academy Award nomination for Midnight Cowboy, for Coming Home, and for being named Best Actor. Still, Jolie felt he wasn't there for her nearly enough. Since Marceline gave up her job to raise Jolie and her elder brother James Haven, she was essentially a single parent. Her mom got married at 21 and was already a divorcee with 2 little children by the time she was 25. She encouraged her children to be creative even though she was never able to follow her artistic passions. Even modest occasions, like birthday parties, would be transformed into fantastic extravaganzas by her artistic abilities. Because of her mother's tolerance and acceptance, Jolie looked up to her. Unlike her, Jolie's mother never pushed her to conform. These ladies were totally different from one another. A shy and reclusive woman, her mother was. Her mother cherished Jolie for all that she was, an extroverted, energetic, and strong, regardless of whether other people found her unsettling. Because of her, Angelina Jolie was able to be authentic and let her children be themselves. Despite her mother's repeated insistence that Jolie be productive, the idea was foreign to Jolie when she was a teenager. She began to experiment with drugs like heroin, drink excessively, and injure herself due to her profound feeling of emptiness. So that Jolie wouldn't run away from home entirely, her mother approved of her having her first live-in lover when she was just 14 years old. In addition to being vocal and defiant, Jolie was confused and distrustful of those in charge. Back then, the idea of becoming a mother, working for the UN, or writing a book would have seemed ridiculous and unattainable. After giving it some thought, she concludes that her intense feelings were justified. They mirrored the fervor that she saw among today's youth activists. Talking to young people is a great way to remind them that it's normal to feel upset about injustice, to be prepared to fight for what's right, and to be willing to sacrifice for it. On the contrary, they show a firm conviction. Having a great need for excitement in her early 20s frequently prompted her to do some unorthodox things. She wore a white t-shirt bearing actor Johnny Lee Miller's name in her blood when she was 20 years old and got married to him. Billy Bob Thornton, her second husband, and she both wore tiny vials of each other's blood around their necks during their marriage. She performed daring acrobatics with butterfly knives on television. While some saw her as a danger, others saw her as someone who knew how to garner attention. She appears quite put together today, frequently donning fashionable Saint Laurent garments. But she insists she hasn't evolved. She has simply become more focused. She reflects on her earlier self and how she was lost, searching for meaning in life and experiencing intense emotions. Even as a little girl, she felt uneasy about living in Hollywood. She went through a lot of pain. Much of it was related to her family. She found it most difficult to witness her mother's suffering. The financial difficulties, Mark Helen's father's affair, and the death of her maternal grandparents all caused her great pain. Keeping her mother safe from harm was Jolie's first priority when she was a little girl. No other professions, such as directing or law, were even considered for her. The only options were acting or modeling. Jolie thinks she would have had more options in life if she were a boy. She wanted to make a better life for herself and her mother, so she explored acting as a career. As a result of her unconventional childhood, which included love and suffering, Jolie has grown from an insecure and misunderstood adolescent into a strong and self-assured lady today. Because of her history of extreme emotional expression, her past continues to shape her present. She is now heeding her mother's counsel and concentrating on her children, her causes, and making the most of each day. She defied all odds to keep the voice. The dangers of being silent were lessons she picked up at an early age. Her generous and loving mother was unable to work or speak her mind. Without complaint or acknowledgement, she watched her mother sacrifice a great deal for the family. However, her father's impact was substantial due to his public speaking and commanding style. He was in charge of the family's story, their finances, and their reputation. He left an impression on their lives that persisted even when he wasn't physically present. People who spoke up in public had power, she realized when she was young. Those without a say were frequently ignored, regardless of how wonderful or worthy they were. A vow she took was to never remain silent and to express her mind no matter what. She realized what she did not desire for herself as she watched her mother patiently bear hardship. She needed a loud voice more than an acting passion. Therefore, she found herself in the spotlight. She made her film debut in How Ashby's Looking to Get Out, playing the daughter of her father's role, when she was just 7 years old. Despite her tender years, she was already carving out a special niche for herself in Hollywood, much like her famous father before her. It was evident that she was already establishing herself as a leading lady in front of the camera when she started modeling swimwear at the tender age of 16. Johnny Lee Miller, who would go on to become her first husband, co-starred with her in Hackers when she was 20 years old. Her career was a smashing success. For her powerful portrayal of a mental patient in Girl, Interrupted, she took home the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress at the tender age of 24. Her position as a dominant personality in Hollywood was cemented by this role, someone who could inspire others and leave a mark on history. After that, she became famous and wealthy. She earned approximately $33 million in 2013 from her collaboration with Louis Vuitton and her leading lady role in Maleficent. There was a balance between generating money and doing meaningful work in the movies she chose. Although she portrayed significant characters, such as journalist Marianne Pearl in A Mighty Heart, she also appeared in less substantial or unremarkable parts. She found her calling in life as a filmmaker while she went about her daily activities. She had already proven herself to be a talented filmmaker before her breakup from Pitt. She proved in her 2017 film First, They Executed My Father that she could coax powerful, genuine performances from her cast, in particular young ones. The film also depicted the brutal reality of living under the Khmer Rouge. It demonstrated her ability to approach deep and delicate subjects with care. She then noticed a slowdown in the velocity of her career. It wasn't because her opportunities were limited. Rather, she made motherhood her top priority. She threw herself into the job, devoting most of her energy to her children and providing them with the maternal guidance and support she had not seen from her own mother. Looking back, she sees that she was mistaken in thinking her rights were inherent. She began working for pennies on the dollar to help support her family when she was a little girl. Protection and decent treatment were never something she believed she deserved. These rights, in her perspective, were hers to defend, no matter how painful the criticism. For the sake of standing up for what she believed in, she was prepared to be perceived as challenging. She expresses gratitude to her mom for instilling self-assurance and teaching her to stand up for herself. But her strong will came from a place of necessity. She would not hesitate to confront anybody attempted to obstruct her. She realized the importance of claiming, defending, and using one's voice after going through some tough times. She rose to international stardom from obscurity, building a life where she could be heard no matter what. The overarching purpose of every film, public statement, and personal battle was to guarantee that her story would always take center stage. She had experienced the anguish of being silenced and was determined that it would never happen to her again. At the tender age of 21, she endured her first act of severe mistreatment in the film industry. She is a powerful advocate with a soft spot for her family. It happened when she was an employee under Harvey Weinstein's supervision on the Miramax picture Playing by Heart. Despite her tender years, she was thrust into what she would come to understand as an assault. She knew the situation was bad, but she got out of there before it became worse. She was forever changed by the experience and the terror it evoked. After that, she cut ties with Weinstein. Staying far away from him, she warned others about his actions. Johnny, her first husband, was even told by her to warn other guys so that women wouldn't be alone with him. She turned down a role in The Aviator years later because to Weinstein's involvement. By expressing her distaste for him, she made her feelings quite apparent. That is why it was so difficult for her when her children's father, Brad Pitt, eventually worked with Weinstein. The Weinstein Company co-produced Pitt's 2009 film *Inglourious Bastard*. Next, Pitt reunited with Weinstein in 2012 for their collaboration in *Killing Them Softly*, another film distributed by the Weinstein Company. She felt as though no one was paying attention to her tragedy. Pitt and her had disagreements over it, and her feelings were hurt since he was prepared to collaborate with the man who had attacked her. Thus, she abstained entirely from all film-related activities that had any kind of promotional presence. The 23-year-old Weinstein is currently serving time for sexual assault and violation. Nevertheless, she was still feeling the effects of the experience at that moment. She jokes that the kombucha she's drinking from the bottle isn't alcohol, at least not for now, as she speaks. While she talks about her kids and advocacy with a serious tone, her tone betrays her sense of humor. Her children, she says, are special in their own ways, but that being a family has broadened their perspectives. Adoption, race, and identity have all been topics of open discussion between them since they were children. They had been explaining to complete strangers how they might be siblings despite their physical differences since they were very little. Visiting each other's home nations has put them in situations where they've been the only people of their respective backgrounds. They know they are family no matter how much they feel like strangers. Adoption was never in her original plans, but she eventually changed her mind. When she was younger, she never even considered starting a family. Neither babysitting nor playing with dolls were her thing. I had no intention of becoming a mother. Playing office was more her speed. She learned about children around the world who had lost their parents when she was in her late teens, and it piqued her interest in adoption. Adoption was a concept that resonated with her. Having biological children was never anything she wanted. She still thinks that shared experiences, rather than genes, are what really make a family, despite the fact that she had 3 children with Pitt. Love and connection, not blood ties, are what matter most to her in a family. A person who has been through a lot, yet can still find the good in life is reflected in her kind, yet strong statements. No matter what, her family will always come first in her life. The quiet power of Angelina Jolie. Angelina Jolie's 2013 New York Times opinion essay stunned readers and the world at large. She came clean about her preventive double mastectomy, which she had not due to cancer, but rather to her high risk for breast and ovarian cancer caused by the BRCA1 genetic mutation, which she has with her mother. Again, she let the public in on certain private details 2 years later. She discussed her decision to undergo a procedure to remove her fallopian tubes and ovaries in another piece. It was unprecedented for a prominent Hollywood actress to publicly address such personal and grave health concerns, particularly during her heyday. Nonetheless, a watershed moment was Jolie's choice to speak honestly. Both the immediate and long-term effects were profound. Her candor resulted in beneficial shifts, according to a UK news article. Within a year, the number of women undergoing genetic testing to determine their risk of breast cancer has risen dramatically in the NHS. Her decision to come out had a greater impact than she could have imagined. It had inspired others she had never met to take charge of their health and discover answers. Her acts may be seen as activism by some, though Angelina Jolie would probably disagree. She usually avoids using the word. It seemed like a more direct and intimate pursuit to her. She thought about her mom and tried to put herself in her shoes to see what may have happened had she known about the mutation and been able to make the same choices. The knowledge that Jolie revealed in the op-ed could have kept her mother alive, according to Jolie. That is why she put pen to paper. She hoped that by doing so, she may encourage another mother to read her story and live to see her children grow up. Being in the spotlight has never been easy for Jolie. She is often portrayed by others as either flawless or severely defective. While she denies it, some have questioned her choices and assumed she wants to flee the nation with her children in tow. She now understands that the public like to perceive celebrities in a positive light when it supports their own views. Jolie worries about the impact on her career from people's perceptions of her. Her advocacy for children's rights and the individuals she assists risk being unnoticed if others fail to comprehend her. Those who believe she is mentally ill would not understand the significance of her advocacy for causes like Muhammad's. In the course of a talk, she displays both her strength and her tiredness. She spoke clean about how devastated she feels by admitting that the years following her separation and continuing divorce had been quite trying for her. She seems like she's fighting back tears as she pauses for a long time with her hands over her face when asked what the last 5 years have stolen from her. She says that it includes more than simply the recent 5 years. In some respects, it encompasses the previous decade as well. Some things are off limits to her. Even if only a few of people comprehend her life, her hardships, and her sacrifices, she finds solace in that knowledge. The weight of the outside world is still there. Concerned about the situation in Afghanistan, she had sobbed earlier in the day. It had been 20 years since her last visit, and she still felt hopeful after meeting the kids and hearing the promises of a better future. However, at this moment, that optimism appears to be unshakable. When questioned whether she has achieved peace inside herself as a result of her experiences, she delicately says that she hasn't completely conquered them just yet. Even asking someone how they are makes her feel burdened. She has trouble putting her emotions into words. She makes the point that it's conceivable to stick it out through tough times, but still not feel much different emotionally. Struggle for fairness and restoration. It was the news that the U.S. had rejected the Convention on the Rights of the Child that finally pushed her to action. Ensuring the safety of her children was no longer her only concern. A bigger fight for human rights ensued. It became clear to her that her battle was about more than simply herself. In spite of everything that has happened, she is determined to find meaning in her trip. Being in this position, she tells herself, gives her the power to fight back against a flawed system. Her difficulties are not unique occurrences. They have several facets and are thoroughly entrenched. A lack of approval has had a devastating effect on her life, and she is aware of this. The fact that her 17-year-old daughter could not testify in court added insult to injury. Aside from being a legal setback, this incident exemplifies how the system may silence those whose opinions it ought to uphold. Jolie possesses qualities that are both powerful and delicate. She has periods of wanting to communicate openly about her problems and periods of wanting to keep quiet. Her greatest wish is that her loved ones, especially their father, will get well soon and move forward without resentment or animosity. She is certain that no matter what happens, they will remain united as a family. There will be challenges on the road ahead. Carrying on with her charges while also wanting peace feels nearly impossible. Striking a balance between the two is no easy feat. You can see her feelings clearly today. Since the Taliban have taken power in Afghanistan, she has been greatly impacted by news reports and pictures from the country. She holds this nation in high regard. 20 years ago, on her first visits there, she began to understand the magnitude of global suffering. She recollects seeing hopeful kids, hearing promises, and seeing how trusting they were of people who said they would help. She recollects tracking their paths through time, seeing them go to school, and seeing how they tried to put their lives back together. The betrayal, terror, and grief she felt when she watched them driven back into danger are still with her. The current situation is a stark reminder of the world's persistent problems. The injustice, pain, and powerlessness of the oppressed are brought to light by these. Still, they remind her of the courageous people she has met, like Muhammad and other future-focused activists who are fighting for justice. She reflects on her youth, when she defied social norms and maintained her faith in justice despite its seeming impossibility. As a result of these events, she keeps fighting for justice and compassion even though some people mistrust her. She thinks it's crucial to stay true to her principles, so she doesn't waver. Is Angelina Jolie someone you like? Feel free to provide your opinions in the space provided. Get more interesting stories like this by subscribing, like, and pressing the bell icon.